which means that it is a Rail Natter, I think. Good evening, everyone. It's Rail Natter. A delight to have you along. What's extremely exciting is that we have a guest in the guest room, in the green room, waiting in the wings, is none other than extreme train tube royalty, Jen on the Move. Tonight, Jen is waiting patiently for me to do my rapid fire open so we can get into the episode, because she's been waiting for so long. Tonight, we are going to be talking about the launch of the GBR Identity, the first grand launch of the GBR Identity, which is, of course, of Test Tracks. Here you can see some of that branding in action. Oh, no, I did this gag last week, didn't I? Anyway, look, you can gaze upon its beauty and then look at this, which this is a picture that came out with the official press release. And it's like a really bad Photoshop job. Like it's like been done almost like the Tories when they were trolling us with their bad graphic design last time. Anyway, we've got thoughts. Jen and I have thoughts, and we're going to share them with you. Before we do that, though, of course, we want to say thank you to the Patreon people. You make this happen. Without you, there would be no Rail Natter. Talking of which, everyone, welcome to tonight's Rail Natter. And as the Intercity 225 fades away, it is a delight for me to... Look, here she is, Jen. Hello. Hello. Look at this.
Fantasy
we made it happen.
Here.
I know, fantasy. Yeah, this is it.
This little corner of the internet.
This little corner of the internet. We've been meaning... You know what? Okay, we're going to talk about Great British Railways momentarily, but let's make our faces that bit slightly larger. We have the technology to do this. For anyone who doesn't know, this is Jen on the Move. She's on the internet. She has a large presence. Her channel is bigger than mine. It has a larger audience than mine. Go see. I think that's true, Jen, by quite a substantial measure.
I think of you as royalty in the railway world.
We're both royalty in our own strange ways. One of us didn't decide to throw their entire career onto the bonfire to do battle with the current rail minister. So I don't know which one of us is therefore more or less sane.
I do start fights with most TOCs every week.
Well, yeah. Jen is here because we've got a Whoops All News episode basically, but we are going to be talking about the GBR livery. But Jen, I've wanted to do an episode with you, like a more proper like episode, and of course that involves thinking and me having any brain capacity. And I thought I can't let this drag on. Jen and I need to be on an episode together, and so I asked you, I think like single-digit hours ago. Yeah. Jen,
and luckily I was at a loose end, and now I'm throwing my microphone in front of the screen.
Hey, that's the Rail Natter way. Look, that sort of thing it happens.
I just bring chaos to places. It's fine. It's good.
I haven't got. Well, the trouble is I haven't got anything good for you to point at, which is quite upsetting.
I can point at things. I can point at a kitty.
Oh, that's a good thing to point at. We both of us just got cat scorn there. Like, guys, what are you doing? What? I'm just on the shelf. It's fine. Leave me.
We may end up with multiple cats throughout this episode.
So, oh my goodness. Right, Jen. So we cannot talk for hours and hours because that's what we've already been doing while you've been waiting for me to pull the slides together. So, Great British Railways. Here is a pin held by an MP. I'm not going to tell you about the fact that I have this. Ow. I just shredded my nail. This headboard here that was on a train recently with the actual double arrow on it and with Rail Alphabet on it, Rail Alphabet 2 specifically. I'm not going to tell anyone about that, obviously, because I keep holding it up in every single episode I can because I find it very exciting. Just ignore that. So, Great British Railways. You know what? Before we chat, Jen, let's let Heidi Alexander, in her own inimitable way, the Secretary of State for Transport, introduce this branding to us in what I'm sure will be a dignified way, and doesn't involve her later on playing Hornby, playing a computer game surrounded by a Hornby logo in a railway station. Anyway, Heidi Alexander, tell us something. Let's go. Oh, that's some lounge music. Okay. Oh, well, that was a clever trick.
Today's the day.
Oh. Okay. Oh, good. Less good. Okay. That's some tunes. Oh dear. Don't worry, everyone. We've got thoughts on this.
You've got to love the royalty-free music.
I know. Hey, it's a bit of sax. I love that they used I mean, shout out to Dovetail Games, by the way. Friends of the show, have been on before. I love that they used Dovetail Games as simulator rather than like putting on a train maybe and filming it on a... Anyway, we are going to not be going through the detail of GBR in this episode because we did that a couple of episodes ago, so we don't need to dwell on that. We're going to go through a few different elements that have come out with the identity. Jen, what was your first feel when you saw you saw some of the stuff on Twitter, no doubt. What was your instant feeling on the... We're going to talk about the train itself specifically, but more broadly on the identity. What were your thoughts on it?
My first thought was, what is that? Like, it doesn't capture the essence of what does make our network great, because there are many great things. It's missing something. It's lacking something. I don't know. It's the perfect... It's 2025 in a nutshell, is what I call it.
Yeah. That is basically it. It's like, why are you missing the point here? You're missing what makes this place good. You're missing some of the good stuff. Like, this is Britain's a deeply sick island, but there are some good things going for us, right? And our railways are brilliant. They are brilliant. They are full of brilliant people. They are energizing. They are exciting. They've survived despite everything, which in and of itself is a hell of a type of brilliance. And it just feels like this has just sailed straight past that and just gone, but the GB News thing. Even just the identity stuff here. I mean, I don't like that they have cap heighted the logo because it means the logo is too small against the text and it looks odd compared to what it should be. I have the corporate identity manual over. I'm pointing now.
Now I can't unsee that. Thank you, Gareth.
There we go. I'm pointing. So it's like it should be aligned to X height. So the E there in Great British Railways should be aligned with the top and the bottom of the horizontal bars of the logo. But in this case, they've just gone, how can we make it like look even cheaper subtly? The colors are dark and like the red is right. That's flame red. Fine. E60000 hexadecimal for those who want to nerd out on PowerPoint. But the blue that they've chosen, the dark blue, it's a bit... Okay, so the logo.
I would disagree with you on the colour there. I think that blue works in that context.
Yeah, okay. That's fair enough. Okay, you're right. On the white there, it does. You're right. I tell you what, you are right. It's when it's on the train that it's more decimal. I suppose the thing that... my main thing with this is, where are they going to use this? Because it should be putting this anywhere. There's nowhere that needs to have this written anywhere. Like, I was kind of partly hoping that we'd never see the words Great British Railways written anywhere, and you would just use the double arrow, rail symbol 2 as that is. But anyway, no, okay. So that's the identity, which I think there's no point dwelling too much on, because the logo, which is it's pointless. Why do you need the GBR there? You don't need that. You don't need it. Talking of which, so that's the logo. Then let's talk about the app and the trains. First of all, the app, the button of the app. Again, if it was me, even if you had that flag shaggy stuff in the back, the blue and the spiky blue and red stuff, you could just put the white double arrow on the top. Why do you need the GBR there?
Need the double arrow. That's all it needs.
Exactly.
It's a universally recognizable symbol.
Yeah. It's one of the most universally recognized symbols, in the world, let alone just in Britain. But
hey, we have to tell the world it's GBR.
Oh, it's because, well, you know what it is? It's because Daily Mail. It's because The Sun. It's because you can't just be like, well, no, it's just a double arrow. It's British Rail, because they'll say it's British Rail, and then that'll make people sad for reasons. It's just such a waste. Like, on a thing that's going to be the size of my thumb, why are you putting letters there? It's just extremely poor design. It's baffling. And then the train. We're going to talk a bit more about the app itself in a minute. But and there's all sorts that we want to unpick there. But the train livery. First thing I want to say, I'm not blaming the designer in this. I've got a sneaking suspicion I know exactly who it is, and I have nothing but respect for what you will have endured for the last God knows how long of all of the Mike Tapp MPs possible. And all of the, let's say, a spad called, for the sake of argument, Brian. Let's just put a B in there. Pestering you relentlessly, telling you, no, it has to be as flaggy as possible. We're taking the fight to reform, and it has to have all the flag.
I used to work in a similar environment, and I can just imagine the conversations of, but can you just make it pop a bit more? With no definition of what pop is. Pop being, can you just make it a bit more British?
It's
Can you
like-
make it a bit more, yeah.
I can just imagine the designer being like, it needs a horizontal line, and everyone going, no, why? There's no horizontal lines. We want angles. We want angles, baby. It's like, no, but it's a train. A train moving 125 miles an hour. Angles look stupid. It needs to have horizontal lines because it's a train going at speed. That's how livery works. And they've gone, no, angles, baby, angles. Angles work on TPE. Like the TPE livery, I think looks great.
Yeah.
It looks great because it's abstract. It covers the whole thing with polygons. It's. This is not that. Oh.
It's positives. Positives. It's less bad than I expected.
Yes. Agreed. Right. Okay. So we're going to talk about the train livery. You're right. Overall, and I'll tell you what, with all of this here, I think one thing that Jen, I don't know what your thoughts are, but one thing it struck me is exactly that. It's like, this is not even the beginning of the actual identity. They've slapdashed something because they needed something to announce, because for some reason that's a useful, worthwhile use of anyone's time, is to create the thing that isn't the thing just for the sake of a press release. Like, there is more work to be done, and ideally a GBR that actually gets set up will have a team that is in charge of this and will do a good job of it. That's what my hope is, basically. I'm clinging on to that a bit, Jen. I don't know if you share that.
This
hope.
will get vinyled onto a few trains for a press launch.
Yeah, exactly.
And then hopefully it will get refined into something nicer.
Imagine sending this train into Edinburgh.
That's not going to go down well.
Imagine sending it into Cardiff, but particularly imagine sending it into Edinburgh. Or maybe, I don't know, Glasgow.
People will point out that the ScotRail livery is the Scottish flag, but that's done tastefully.
It is done better, but also it's
tasteful.
Also, we get to invade England briefly every now and then when we send them into Carlisle, but for the most part, that is in Scotland. Whereas these are going to be running into, they're going to be running. They have the Union flag, which is not a universally popular flag outside of England. Turns out, certainly not a universally popular flag in Wales, where it represents absolutely nothing of Welsh identity, and it's not very popular in Scotland, where, particularly in Glasgow, an interesting one.
I haven't fact checked this, so don't quote me on this, but I've seen a few people mention that no other country puts like the country's colours in this way on their trains.
That's because we are tragic. We are a deeply tragic country. Okay, right. So let's talk about the app, because one of the things that's kind of come around about this time, a few days ago, I think the tender went out for the app. It's like, well, just use the LNER one and update it, surely. But anyway, okay, put that to one side. It is going to be a one-stop shop app for tickets, times, so on, sort of doing what the National Rail Inquiries app does, but I would hope incorporating other things.
I am really hoping the National Railways app, the National Rail app, isn't a template.
Yeah, it's bad. Don't use that. Yeah, deprecate the hell out of that. At least use one of the other TOC, apps as a basis. Yeah. If you are going to start from something structural. But there's a lot of open-ended stuff on this, like, there are opportunities in having a single app. Like, you can have a map that has information on it, like where delays, you can have a heat. There are lots of opportunities you can have. But also things like, for example, all of the RDG accessibility app is awful. And there needs to be some accessibility functionality as part of this, and that's not been mentioned in the tender. I've not seen that picked up.
If there's one thing I've learned about using apps since my life event, is accessibility in apps is often an afterthought. And like, the moment you increase the text size on your phone, all usability goes out the window. So I really hope, just even basic things like that, I thought about in the app, and I'm really worried that, because this is going to be rushed out.
Yeah. Because
they will have press releases to make, and things like that will get missed.
Yeah, missed, not thought about. Accessibility, only through a lot of vigorous action did a legal requirement on accessibility get put back into the Railways Bill after a certain rail minister had decided it wasn't a necessary thing to include. I'm like, it's good that there will be a single app, because for a little bit of time there wasn't going to be. There was like, no, actually, Trainline have successfully lobbied Labour that they're not going to do that. Now they are, which I'm glad of. So that is good. It just needs to be a good app, and I have to say, the little picture they've used there, why's it got the Union flag on the top, making it really, it's just very messy. Again, the app designers will fix this. Red buttons are also a big no-no in app design, so there's lots of things that need fixing, but
I'm confident looking at that's nowhere near the final version. I'm kind of also fairly confident they don't know what near the final version looks like at this stage.
Yeah. It's gone out to they might have included this picture in the tender documentation, being like, this is the vibe we want, and then any designer will go, cool, ignore.
I mean, it's got readable text, so it wasn't AI generated, at least.
True, that's true. God, can you imagine? I would have been spitting so many more feathers if that had been the case. Right, so the trains. We've got to talk about the trains. The liveries, and you know what? They don't look quite so bad when they're inside. Train sim world or whatever it is they've used here. I think the main thing I'm thinking about with these is deeply underwhelming. It's funny they've got the yellow nose, which I actually quite like, but that's kind of by the by. It just missed opportunity. There's a thing that the main thing that hits me is why has it got Great British Railways written in different ways? It's so scrappy having this. Look at this. Why is GBR there and then Great British Railways there and in different sizes? It's just rubbish. What's going on?
Because it must be rammed down our throats every moment. This is Great British Railways. This isn't about making the railways better. This is about just making it look good while hiding everything that needs fixing.
Why have we got the GPR? Like, we don't. It's just the redundancy. Also, it's funny because it's got the LNER typeface for the number, so they've not actually updated that still, which sort of gives the game away as to who is the designer of this livery. It must be said, which is, I'm so sorry, and I love you very much. You are a brilliant livery designer, and I do not hold this against you. This it's been asked to be put on. They've said no, put the GBR with the GBR underneath there. This looks a bit like the HST Blue Pullman, having the weird. Which also is a livery I hate. Go on, Jen.
What I think is they made a point to make it. They made a point to illustrate this on a train that it's going to look its best on. What's this going to look like on a 150?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's that picture from earlier. It's going to have the spiky stuff, but also they've not done the thing where this is just at each end. They appear to have it on each coach, which is odd. Like other people have pointed out that you could just have this dark blue as like the intercity livery with just a massive white double arrow, and it would look great. Like, it would look clean and simple and great. You don't need all the faff. The thing I want to show is this. This is the Fun Avanti livery from fairly recently, and it's. I love this for starters because it's brilliant. It's exciting. It's bonkers. It's lovely. It's glorious. Do you know what's great?
Make the world a fun place is great.
Exactly.
You wouldn't want this on every train, though.
No, you wouldn't want this on every train. But my point is that the advantage of doing big double arrow is that you plonk a giant big double arrow here. Yeah. And it works. It instantly works. No doubt about what this train is, what it's doing. And you can then have all sorts of regional and local variations. And it stops mattering what your colour your trains are because they can be doolally, but the massive white double arrow fixes it and solves it. It's a massive opportunity missed in terms of having a uniquely vibrant railway. It would be, yeah, I
want to believe that we will get there.
Yes, exactly. Exactly the same thing. Like, I kind of want to believe that we will get to that point. But it's going to take us some time to get there, I think. And any other thoughts, Jen? I've yacked on a bit there, and I was, but any other things that hit you?
How easy is that going to be to cable tie to a lamppost?
Yeah.
It's that's this identity is what I would have expected and not been surprised by, coming from when the Tories were kicking all this off.
Yeah,
I expected better now.
We've done that thing where we've gone
not much better.
No, I know. Well, you and I, for both the same and lots of different reasons, have zero faith or hope in current situations. But yeah, this. I'm at the point now where I expect this Labour government to be even more drum bangy and flag wavy than the previous Tories, because they've got so little else going on. There's so little else that they've done, and also they are desperately panicking in the polls. So they're desperate for like, no, look, flags. Woo!
If I'm not careful, I'm going to go on a full-on political rant, and it won't be great for my brain.
Got
to keep my blood pressure down and all that.
Blood pressure down, yeah, that's a fair point. I was going to say, this is Rail Natter. It's the place for those sorts of rants, but we don't want another life event happening live in a Rail Natter. That would be... you'd be permitted to never appear on a Rail Natter again, or appear on another one immediately afterwards. I don't know. It depends. Right, so... It's time in fact, no, before I yak on about the news, I'm very briefly going to say the bonus episode after this, I think possibly, I'll be in the middle of like having had a curry in York with my Test Tracks colleagues because it's our day out, it's our Christmas day out tomorrow. But I'm hoping to have time to whiz out and do a little bit of live, more branding chat if people have questions. So there'll be a live, this is a pre-record of course, but there'll be a live little Patreon only £5 and above tier post-episode session. So stay tuned for that. I'll probably do another one on my phone like a couple of weeks ago, which ended up working quite well. So, the news. We have news to talk about, and we're going to continue with the flag stuff because of the fares freeze, which, good. I'm glad this has happened. I don't want to say that, I'm not going to poop on this and say it's all bad news. This is a good thing. I'm glad they've done this. But there are caveats here. And Jen, I know you've got fares thoughts, but I'm going to dump the caveats in first, and then you can share your fares thoughts. So, first caveat is regulated fares like the off-peak return are being removed from the fares mix, kind of by stealth. As they have been on LNER, there are no longer return fares on LNER, which means that passengers, it means that unregulated fares exist, which are not being frozen, particularly at weekends. What else? Oh yeah, the other point which is interesting is now what has been increasing those fares? It's interesting that Labour policy from 2005 onwards was under a certain person at the Treasury who authorised this. What was his name? Burnham, that's right. I don't know where he is now. Andy Burnham at the Treasury at the time. RPI plus 1% was introduced as a rule on rail fares, and that lasted right the way through until the Tories came in and the coalition government, and then they dropped it, and it kind of waved all around and stuck with RPI, and then it went back to RPI plus 1% again when Labour came in. So yeah, odd, interesting there that they've. But okay, great. It's great they've frozen it. Oh, one more thing. They did quote a 600 million saving to passengers from the freeze, but that multiplied TOC revenue from period 7, multiplied it by RPI plus 1%, but that assumed that unregulated fares were frozen, which they're not. So anyway, Jen, just a bit of background to the fares thing there. Any thoughts from your side? I know you have maybe one or two on fares.
So you're more positive about the fares than me, because you're trying to take a positive from this, and I'm sorry, but freezing something that is already way too expensive. I don't know if I can say this, but I'm going to. It's like polishing a turd.
Oh, you can definitely say this. You can even say the word on this episode. That's allowed. I've got a thing that I can press, but I can't catch you. But you're far too well behaved for that.
Freezing something that is already too expensive is not a good thing. Rail fares need to drop so much to become. If we want to get people onto trains, they need to be affordable to people that want to use the trains. Peak fares, they're a scam. You end up with half-empty trains running in those weird times that are like off-peak for like any reasonable person, but peak time because cross-country have set a blanket 9:30. I could rant about this for hours and hours and hours, and I know you're trying to take a positive out of this situation, but it
was a very rare me taking a positive. The strongly held belief of Rail Natter is that you get rid of peak fares as they have in Scotland. You just get rid of peak fares. You take all the peak fares and you just delete those. No replacements, no swap outs, just delete them.
I've got a video title that I'm working with, The Great British Fares Scam, because it is a scam.
Oh, yes, good. Oh, yep, no, absolutely agree. And it's not just, again, rail doesn't exist in a bubble. The point here is that at the same time as they're doing this, they are, fuel duty continuing to be at the record low levels that it is, frozen again, by the way. Like, the big picture of transport is that bus fares way up in the over the last, let's say, almost exactly 40 years. Like the cost of driving, meanwhile, much lower by relative terms than it was. The big picture is that it's much cheaper to drive, which, by the way, it still isn't for people who are not well off. They have to rely on public transport because actually, even though cost of driving for people who already have a car and already are able to live in a place where they can put a car is cheaper, which, by the way, is not the bottom 20% of earners. Those people all rely on the bus, and they all rely on public transport, for which rail is a backbone. So yeah, 100% agree. And it has to be seen as part of that bigger picture of how we should be actively, a bit like Burnham says he is. That guy Burnham, he's coming up again in a minute, does say that that driving should not be the cheapest option for people.
It shouldn't be. I love traveling by trains. I make videos traveling by trains. Yet, if I want to go anywhere with my partner, it's often significantly cheaper for us to drive there first. And sadly, the economics mean that we have to drive it because we're priced off taking a train to, and we like that. So I'm just.
Yeah, 100%. Right, so. More budget. Some budget bits and bobs. Budget was a little while ago, but there are a few bits and bobs I want to pick up. So one of the things that I found very funny was that Rachel Reeves was asking the banks to praise her plans because she got them out of, like, she didn't do a tax raid on the banks. It's like, okay, that's definitely normal and fine and not a sign of a failing government. Okay, cool. Next bit was, it's very interesting that the budget was, people pointing out, like, noticing that the budget was extremely backloaded with no tax rises until the after the next general election. Interestingly, very, very well. A cynic might say that was obviously because budgets are always like that. It's almost as if the entire budget is designed for short-term political survival, and we should get rid of fiscal events like this because they're stupid. Yeah,
I hate politics. I hate everything that comes around this. Why can't we just do a good job?
Don't make this stupid event that everything hinges on. Just like continuously monitor and adjust accordingly. Anyway, and also the scary thing is that, remember, the idea there is no money is a lie. There is a lot of money. For example, Reeves planning to spend £166 billion on weapons, on arms, which over the next 6-year period, which is quadruple the amount for education and double the NHS investment budget. This stuff's a political choice. It's nothing to do with whether there is or is not a big pile of monopoly money in a corner. No, it's just political decisions. They can just make up what they can and cannot spend money on. Coming back to railways, talking of money spinning this way and that way, rail industry income fell last year, which is interesting, largely driven by the fact that the government chopped Network Rail's funding by £1 billion. So, like, basically, like, if you're wondering, government funding, rail industry income. Well, weirdly, rail industry income includes the money it gets from government in the way that the ORR do the accounting. So the big pie chart there is passenger operator income, which is 2024 to 2025 financial year. About 12 billion of income from passengers, 2 billion income from freight, and then about 12 billion. So the government kind of match funds passenger revenue at the moment. But it has reduced that. It's taken £1 billion off Network Rail. If anyone's wondering why the supply chain is struggling, that's majority off renewals and enhancements. So that's why the supply chain is on its knees at the moment. More on that another day, I'm sure. Anyway, yeah, so hooray!
Yay, money.
Right. Let's talk about this guy. You might know something about this guy. You often find yourself talking about things that this guy's been up to.
Mr. Burnham.
Mr. Burnham. Yeah, firstly, he's pissed off that, government, again, like they were going to announce their Northern Palace Rail, which is a stupid name for a nebulous load of nonsense. They were going to announce it last year. Now they're going to announce it at the budget. Then they didn't. Then they're going to announce it at the infrastructure strategy thing, which they didn't. And then they've said they're not going to do it. So that's great. And that's why Burnham's getting pissy again, looking stylish in his little T-shirt and suit. But there are some genuinely good things happening in Manchester right now, which I'm excited about, which is... like, as of, I think, the 7th of December, what's the date now? Not the 7th of December, it's a few days ago. There's a big change in the way that ticketing works in Manchester in the move towards the B network actually integrating stuff across modes. This is really positive. This is, like, really good. There are issues, problems, little things that are headaches, but this is really positive. Manchester is an enormous city, and it is getting towards having an integrated transport system. And the objectives are being laid out very, very clearly, which is making me very happy. So, Jen, any thoughts on this? You might have some.
Well, you're being very positive.
I'm actually being very positive because I want to eat my words a little bit here. I've historically been quite critical about Burnham as somebody who doesn't really follow through with his words. And you know what? On the buses, he has. I'm worried that he's been distracted by the buses for the last couple of years, and things like the Metrolink have kind of been forgotten about. I don't know if anybody's travelled on the Metrolink recently, but it's actually falling to bits. There's many temporary speed restrictions where just maintenance has been lacking. And I'm kind of worried, like, as his focus starts shifting to more of these other things, what happens to the buses when they're not getting those political eyes on it? And that's where my worry lies. But I want to eat my words a bit because you know what, he's followed through on the buses, and I was skeptical then. So maybe I'll be proved wrong.
Yeah, and I mean, multimodal integration. We've covered this a lot on RailNat. That like rail should not and cannot exist in a bubble. Cannot be thought of in isolation. The phrase that I always use is mobility in totality. It's what works because people just want to get from A to B, and they want to do it in the way that's as easy as possible. And ideally, that wouldn't be the car. And ideally it will be, and you do this in London, like people just don't even think about it in London because you have such frequencies that you don't need to think about it. You just go on Google Maps, you go, or whatever your preferred thing is, and you go, oh, I need to get there. It says, get that bus, and then change into the tube there, and then I'm there. And you just do that.
We're going in the right direction in Manchester, and it's been very noticeable in the last couple of years. It's getting easier to get around. So yeah, I'll give him some credit there for that.
But he has to keep the pressure up, and you don't keep the pressure, and he is, to be fair, and he has reasonable. The fact that he is, a lot of people are saying he's the more. Funnily enough, I have to use the word moderate challenger because Keir Starmer is so right wing. He is the more moderate challenger for PM when Starmer is pushed over onto his sword after the local elections in May, which is going to be fun. Don't get me wrong, but Burnham is one of the people who they're suggesting. The trouble with Burnham disappearing off, or even just being politically distracted, is exactly as you point out, Jen, is if he loses focus on Manchester. And I'd rather he focused on, I think he'd have a much more positive long-term legacy of being the guy who made transport really good in Manchester than if he decided to start having his PM aspirations again. So,
I would like to keep him in Manchester.
Yeah. He's better at regional politics than he was when he was doing national politics. He was also a kid when he was at Treasury. I slag him off for some of the stupid decisions he made, but he was also a kid, relatively speaking. He's now he's done Manchester. I think the thing is, having given evidence next to him twice in Parliament, he does know the stuff well. He actually does get the detail. He is on it, and he understands how it impacts on people actually day to day. So for better or worse, he is doing good. He is doing good things on this, and I like the B network idea. I think it's a nice. It's smart. It's fine. People have thoughts on the various yellows. I know this.
By people, do you mean me by any chance? the vomit comets, as I call them. Any other shade of yellow. Any other shade of yellow. They did
pick a slightly anemic yellow. It is true.
It's to make it easier to clean after spending a night out on Wilmslow Road.
Don't investigate why that's the case. It's nothing to do with how jet wash works on yellow. Talking of things that should have been committed to a long time ago and have just not been because no one is interested in spending money on actual important things because it doesn't look politically sexy. Let's talk about Ely Junction for 1 minute and maybe 3 or 4 seconds. Ely Junction. Jen, how much do you know about Ely Junction as a thing, as a problem?
I don't know too much about that corner of the world, but
Neither do I.
I know that we're not very good at spending money where money needs to be spent. And that headline, we don't need to know about the specifics.
Yeah. Ely Junction is basically the junction where most of Britain's treats come through from Felixstowe. So it's one of the most heavily used kind of freight nodes. There are other very heavily used freight nodes around the country that some people may be familiar with. I believe you have some videos on another one of the very key critical freight nodes in the country. One or more videos, Jen, that you might have done on that. But so Ely Junction is a key one. The challenge with Ely Junction is there's level crossings around. So the costs, the challenges, the re-signalling involved, it's a big messy project. But it's also one of the key freight bottlenecks in the country. And relentless studies, all a waste of time, have said this has a benefit cost ratio of like 8. Like, just do it instantly. It's a no regrets project. Every penny you spend is worth it. And government proving how pointless benefit cost ratio analysis is and how pointless all the consultancy work is, they just say no because they're not interested. It's funny that the minister's like, I'm committed to. I'm not saying which minister this is. Actually, it's not the one you think it is. Everyone, it isn't Hendy. It's the other local one minister. Minister. I don't think it's Lillian though either. It's one of the Lightwood. Who's the other guy? I don't know. There was another one. They all have silly titles. Anyway, DFT makes no sense. That's a future episode, how to remodel a DFT. Anyway, basically, they're like, we've committed to this, but we're not, because obviously we're not spending any money on it. Brilliant.
What will happen with anything like this is we'll just talk about it and keep talking about it and then consult on it and talk about it.
Portishead.
It will never, ever happen. Nothing, okay, I'm going to go rants again. Nothing ever happens because we just talk ideas to death. Like, I get we have to do
talk is cheap. Treasury doesn't have to fund talk.
I get we have to do consultations, but we don't need to do 17 million before we even think about, how are we going to pay for this?
Well, the point is, you don't have to pay for it. It's a capital project. It pays for itself. That's the whole point. You don't need. The other thing is, it's like, if you commit to it, then build it. It's like the whole point of this is like, if you think a railway is a good idea, then build it. You don't need to go and get a study to tell you what you've decided or what you're being told but from behind anyway. Right, talking of things that aren't as they seem. So Channel Tunnel, the owner, who's called Eurotunnel, actually they're called Getlink, but they're a subsidiary. Eurotunnel owns the channel. Say that they're halting UK investment projects because they are non-viable thanks to business rate hikes, tax hikes. This is bollocks. Of course that's not the case. Of course tax hikes are not impacting their investment. They're using it as a useful excuse, presumably because Getlink are distracted by something else. But this is not a tax hike situation. There are lots of other reasons why the Channel Tunnel is struggling with traffic. But it isn't because there isn't the demand there to use it. So another frustrating one. Right, let's have some fun, Jen. Doge. People might have heard of Doge. This is an Elon Musk toy that was basically a corner of government made to put him, to keep him quiet.
What are they doing these days?
Nothing. They're dead. They've been closed. They have literally, like, it's funny. This is like someone contacted the Office of Personnel Management, and in fact, not someone, Reuters did, and the response was, that doesn't exist.
Now, all of these UK councils that have kind of like taken that as these reform councils that have taken this as a model, can they now take note and just
not just reform councils? Labour also saying we're doing. My local MP saying I'm doing Doge.
This is why I stick my fingers in my ears about stuff like this, because it's just ridiculous.
Do you know what's fun, though, is the thin blue line here on this little graph is referring to last year's spend levels from the Department of the Treasury in the US. The slightly thicker purple line refers to the levels with Doge existing, which are, that's right, marginally higher. So great work, Doge. Great successes all around. Yeah. Really, really good. What's also fun, we'll stick with the US, a little blue sky tweet here saying, just pointing out a thing that was quite fun that I think I've talked about in another podcast that I've recorded and I'm about to record again, that's I'll plug when it actually goes out, talking about the fact that during the US government shutdown, it's very interesting that lots of airplane stuff went badly wrong and they had to ground lots of flights. This wonderful beacon of the private market, the wonderful, entirely private, self-sustaining aviation industry in the US, gem of private capitalism, ceased to function when government stopped operating the traffic control towers. Interesting. So you're suggesting that entire thing isn't a completely autonomous, self-controlling free market. Interesting. Okay. Noted. Really. Fascinating. Right. Some other news which is frustrating, but also kind of a lot of us predicted it, which is that the very important, genuinely important diesel phase out, which was supposed to be in 2035 across Scotland, has been delayed by a decade to 2045, which means that the wonderful hydrogen battery trains that were going to be running up the Highland have been shelved, and they're just going to get the cascades from the areas that get new electric trains. Whoops.
I think...
Who could have predicted this?
With battery technology is great, but it just seems to be kicking a can down the road because we're not there enough yet.
We're not there enough yet.
It's hailed as a magic solution, but it's not good enough to work en masse yet.
Yeah, it's not, and even if it was, no one's procuring battery fleets anytime soon. the reality is that to get a battery train up the West Island line, you'd need enormous amounts of charging infrastructure because batteries don't have that range. And frankly, hydrogen, having just done a hydrogen event, by the way, as anyone watching the bonus will know, the hydrogen event was not about hydrogen traction. Hydrogen is not for moving freight or passenger trains around. It does not work. Alstom have just had all their subsidies cut in France, and they are going, okay, well, we're not, but then hydrogen trains we can't do those then because they don't work. It's daft. The train that you see there, lovely 156, 1/3 of that train, so most of the way through coach 1, would be fuel cells and hydrogen storage. That's why hydrogen doesn't work, particularly within our loading gauge. And you don't need to. Like, diesel is fine. When you've got a train with 250 people on it and a couple of diesel engines, that's fine. The emissions aren't much. It's not a problem. Also, just electrify it. Like, the Swiss can electrify their extremely rural railways. Why can't we? And how sexy would that look with an electrified railway running through it?
It doesn't have to look ugly.
It doesn't. The thing is, just even regular boring electrification looks fine. It's fine. It's just fine. Don't worry about it. It's a railway. It's supposed to work. Anyway, point being, fine, diesels, doesn't matter. It's frustrating that the energy has come out of that it was overpromised, but it's sort of telling about where hydrogen, as you say, Jen, it kind of tells us the truth a little bit about where battery technology is in terms of its practical applications for long distances. Oh, okay, right, Jen, cover your ears on this one because this is real depressing stuff. Right, climate. There's too much hope and not enough misery. So this graph here, you might think this looks great. So here's where we're going. This says where we are going, and it's showing us how many gigatons of CO2. Where we're headed, you might think, okay, well that's better. We're dropping it. Projections with current policies, and where we could go with stated policies. Well, that's pretty good. Those policies have been stated. Dr. Aaron Thierry, who's a pretty good follow for stuff like this, is the fact that the UK very much one of these. Many countries are entirely off track for delivering their supposedly agreed targets on carbon reduction. For example, the UK Climate Change Committee reckons that we are way off 40% worth of our emissions reduction targets.
Because the big companies are not being forced to actually do this. It's all being put on us, the little people.
100%.
To do our little bit. And
yeah, if you recycle 2 plastic bottles, Jen, don't you know that saves the planet?
Don't get me wrong, it's great to do our little bit, but it's nowhere near enough. We need... They've just got to stop accepting brown envelopes to carry on polluting, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have all the carbon. We have all the carbon like all of the carbon accounting, all of the like shuffling of carbon credits around, which is complete pseudoscientific bullshit and just an excuse to let people continue to pollute. Transport is a really good example of this. You know, we have reduced the majority of the UK's greenhouse gas emissions reductions over the last our lifetimes, Jen, have been entirely from electricity, pretty much entirely from electricity generation, because we switched off coal power stations and did a genuinely good job of bringing a lot of renewable energy online. We've now done the easy stuff, the stuff that can be done by big state intervention that is largely politically innocuous has been done. Now it's transport. Transport is the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions, and government is basically hedging its bets on, but EVs will make that go away, and that's the problem solved. Oh boy. Even if you pretend that that's going to work for private cars, has anyone talked about HGVs?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, here's The Guardian, everyone's favourite newspaper that's definitely not full of wrong-uns. Scientists warn of severe climate-related risks to the UK economy and security. There's been a load of MPs and ministers got brought into a brief in Westminster to say, yeah, by the way, this is going to start actually breaking the country in fairly substantial ways and causing us to have massive economic negative effects, which everyone's been saying who knows about this stuff for years. Why it needs saying again, it needs saying again because this government is not doing anything about climate change.
It's already happening. We see it every year. The once in a 1,000-year events, and they seem to happen more and more, don't they? Carry on using your paper straws.
Well, that's it. Paper straws solve everything. Meanwhile, relevant to this is what we're going to do is forget climate change, because actually what we need to do is build God by having large data centers that will quadruple our electricity consumption for some reason. And what's great is that Labour plan to slash electricity prices for those AI companies, but not for example, freight operators for the railway who cannot make ends meet because electricity charges are so high now on the railway that they are either moving to diesel or reducing the amount they move goods around by rail because of electricity charges being so high.
I was saying to you before this that AI is becoming an unstoppable force, but stuff like this should not happen because AI shouldn't be put ahead of effectively us.
It's just, look, for any positives that there might be for generative AI, large language models et al., because I hate the word AI because it covers a load of stuff that's not AI, that's like machine learning, stuff that we've been doing for decades, and it's just like, no. When I talk about generative, I'm talking ChatGPT, I'm talking about large language models, generative AI. The cleaner thing for society to do, which will become true in the next couple of slides, is to just say no to it, ban it outright, and then see if it makes any difference to anything other than the Silicon Valley tech boroughs who think this is going to save their industry. For example, ways that this is a serious problem for the railway industry is where you have people generating, using a generative AI tool to output a picture of a damaged viaduct that's not very convincing if you look closely, but convincing enough for there to be a genuine need for Network Rail to go, holy shit, right, okay, we better go and check that.
If you answer that in a panic, you would take that at face value.
Yep, you'd go and have a look at that. And it shouldn't be the case that Network Rail suddenly needs to start employing a bunch of BBC fact-checky type people to check large language model generated pictures every time someone sends them there's a problem with the bit of railway here.
I can't remember all of the details of all the specs, but there were meant to be some kind of like meta tags that were meant to be added to AI generated content, but all of the specs for that were entirely optional. And it means that
just basic things that should have been done to ensure that these. What you're talking about, Jen, is some regulation. Yeah, but that's bad, remember, Jen, regulation is bad because this stuff happening and us stopping trains on the West Coast Main Line, that's not an economic problem. What is an economic problem is if we stop the AI people from being able to create God, which will obviously never happen, that's bad. But stopping a real railway with people and goods, that's okay. It's not a big deal.
That's just techies playing around.
Yeah, exactly. And also the really fun one is, of course, some of the big, Tony Blair, one of the big people who's a huge fan of AI destroying everything. But one of the other big fans of AI is the guy who's the boss of Palantir in the UK. Who's that? Louis Mosley. Where do I recognise that name from? Jen, have you who? Is there anyone in UK history with that last name that we should remember? No, surely not any connection to a seriously prominent British fascist. Not his grandson, for example. No, I wouldn't worry about it. Talking of fascists, here's Wes Streeting. This is an extremely bad man, like evil, contemptible individual. Extremely financially in the hands of private healthcare, is completely in hock to several extremely dubious lobby groups in relation to trans rights, and just generally they do child abuse, and he repeatedly endorses their positions. But also he's now coming for the aughts and the ADHDers. He's doing the RFK Jr. thing of saying he's going to review mental health and ADHD diagnoses.
I just don't get why people in power like him feel the need to go after anybody who is remotely not fitting a mold. And there will be another group next that he will go after. And I don't know what does he achieve from this? What does anybody like him achieve from this?
Wes Streeting personally has a lot of self-loathing that he needs to go to therapy about, not take out on the entire country. But also he is completely bought and paid for. Like it's fairly cut and dry. People need to remember that the UK is an extremely corrupt country. He is highly bought and paid for to the tune of hundreds of thousands of pounds by private health interests. Also, it suits them to attack all these groups because they are groups that appeal to what they perceive. McSweeney tells him are the groups that he needs to be attacking because there is a perception that is going to somehow reduce a welfare bill of some description.
I just get frustrated that we just can't live in a world where people can just exist. And I'm fully aware this is quickly becoming an episode of Jen rants at things.
No, that's what Real Natter is all about.
Just
I know.
let people exist.
Yeah,
Don't try and tell them that they are not valid. Don't try and tell them that their diagnoses are wrong.
And of course, one of the key things you absolutely have to do with Wes Streeting is no. Anyway, so right. So there, look, something else. We're going to abandon Wes Streeting and things we have to do with him. And the ferry firms in Stranraer have been asking for upgrading of the A75 to be a dual carriageway. There is a better way. If you're going to build a dual carriageway, the way to do that is don't build a railway. And as we've done in previous episodes, there is a missing railway here that needs to parallel the A75 and would solve these problems. So ferry firms, you're barking up the wrong tree here. This is right with some nicer bits of news. Alex Hines is being a guest on Rail Natter. He is a genuinely knowledgeable and good person to have in senior position on the railways, and it's reassuring that he is basically continuing in a sort of nominally similar position. He was kind of DG of DFT Rail. Now he's chief exec at DFTO. DFTO is what was DFT Holdings that operated all the nationalised train operators, or most of them. So he's kind of now the chief exec of the nationalised train operator. It's one of those weird, not GBR yet roles that's expected to potentially feed Alex into a role at GBR. I would expect and hope, but there are good things for having Alex there. For example, he gets Britain's train problems, i.e. there's not enough capacity, and that might help with that being, if not fixed, then at least talked about again, because it hasn't been for a little while. Jen, what are your thoughts on Alex? Do you know much about him?
I typically don't follow the industry names. I always worry in this kind of situation about, like, are they going to legitimately have enough power to change things, or are their strings going to be pulled from other sources? Because we know that that's how everything ends up going.
And it was one of the worries. Sorry, Jen, go on. I'm interrupting you. Go for it.
You see the greatest people in the world go into roles like this, and they just can't do anything.
Yep. Yeah. And we saw that to an extent with Alex being put where he was in DFT from Scotland, head of Scotland's Railway. And I was thinking, is that a repositioning role to kind of make the rest of the UK not look as bad? So I don't know. But the fact that he's stuck with it is he's clearly seeing it. Like, look, Alex is clearly plotting a trajectory to GBR and to lead in GBR. And I think if we have a GBR that has sufficient levels of autonomy, he will be empowered to do more. We just have to hope that that's what happens, and we have to push for that to happen.
That is my concern with GBR. Yeah. That the strings for GBR are going to be politically, they're going to be political strings, and the people that actually know how to run a railway aren't going to be able to run a railway.
Absolutely, 100%. And and we've seen with the bill that there is a very tight lead being strung around the neck of GBR at this point, and that's a major problem. But yeah, we covered that a bit in the in the episode a few ago. But yeah, we'll keep on that. But it is a good thing. Something else is happening. Again, we can be cynical about this one because this has been supposedly happening for years and years. There is some additional clearance work going on. Now? Say that again, Jen.
How many times has this one been cancelled now?
Oh, I mean, it's kind of never been moving enough to actually be cancelled. It's just never got started. It's been like, oh yeah, it's happening. We just need to sign off on it. And then it's sat on every Secretary of State for Transport's desk for about 10 years doing nothing.
New line's always good. Let's just get on with it.
Just get on with it. This is such an obvious win. Just crack on, for goodness sake. There's no reason to not have done this ages ago. The vegetation clearance, they're saying, Nick the Pirate, by the way, go find Nick on Twitter. I don't know about Nick's politics. I do not endorse Nick, but Nick the Pirate popped up on Twitter with these nice pictures and lives locally. So depending on Nick's politics, possibly one to follow, ? Anyway, Nick, thanks for these pictures. They're nice. Lives locally and is looking at the work being done. I suspect this is pre-veg clearance for surveys, not for actual building going on. So don't get your hopes up for anything interesting happening anytime soon.
And then the inevitable delays along the way. And
yep. Yeah,
we know how the story goes.
we do. And again, cannot stress enough how much of an easy win this is for rail operations. Like, it just should be happening.
Yeah. To be clear, I want to be very clear. Building new railways is great.
Yeah.
I just wish we could get on with
Could
it.
do that. We should do that. The thing you said, we should
I'm
do
not
it.
ranting about the railway.
Yeah. Right, let's have some fun, which is laughing at other countries. No, that's not what we're doing Rail Natter, but we are going to laugh at people who try and get clicks on new Twitter, for which this chap is a bit of a regular visitor. Stop trying to say that Finland's going to re-gauge its network to standard gauge. It's not. Stop it. It's pretend. It's made up. They're not going to do that. It's based on a study that the EU and NATO have pushed for. That's going to say which lines they should do it, and it's not going to fund them, which means it's not going to happen. Look, I write in my book that at some point we'll find ourselves re-gauging railways in the grand scheme of things in the long term, but it's not happening in Finland now, and it's not going to be happening anytime soon. So stop it, everyone. Stop being silly. Oh. Right, and talking of being silly, Jen, this one's very fun. So one of the things we do a lot in Rail Natter is talk about gadget bans and silly technologies that are just dancing around trying to basically silly ideas that have no actual application. It's a regular fun thing we do on Rail Natter, and it feels like the nice last bit of news we should look at is this thing, which we have talked about before, is the monocab owl. Yes, the monocab owl, which is a strange object which gyroscopically just sits on one rail, and so you can have a twin track railway on a single track railway.
Monorail.
No. Except that I just realised I normally tuck this under my jumper. Everyone, you've had me with my earphoney things stuck out wobbling around. Some bonus thing today. That's one for the trivia people, for the bingo. So I have a bingo. Do you know that, Jen? There's a bingo for my Rail Natter episodes that people score themselves on nonsense that I do in every episode. And if things like certain things that I say that they think are funny, and so they scratch bingo cards and they get points for it. It's very silly.
Have you said anything funny in this episode? I must have missed it.
Oh, here she is. Right,
joking.
So unbelievable. Right, so you invite a guest on, you invite them into your home. So this is silly. It's also hashtag World Sustainable Transport Day. If you look at this thing has capacity for like 4 people, which then begs the question, right, so surely there'd be higher capacity to just run a regular single, but like coach train out and back once, rather than doing whatever this is. What is it? And why?
I'm a bit lost for words on that one, and it's...
What's also fun with this is it gets funding. It gets funding. The EU love giving money to this stuff, just like Treasury love giving money to bollocks like this. It's like, no, just fund EU. The European Commission are dreadful on railways. Like, they're hopeless on railways. Like, they've just spent so much on highways for decades. And they're only just starting to be whipped into shape by people like John Worth, for example, with his cross-border rail project. And like, only just are people realizing that actually the EU should have been doing, like, for example, lots of technocratic stuff, fourth rail package type things that the EU have done that's really bad for rail, because they said we should make all of the European railways like Britain's railways were in 2017. Jen, what happened in May 2018? Can you remember that? It was good, wasn't it? That was a real success. A real moment of success for Britain's privatised railway system. So anyway, it's funny that the EU basically shaped its current model of liberalised railway operations on Britain in 2017. It's wonderful. It's marvellous. So glad they did that. Anyway, this is daft and it's funny, and we should laugh at it.
I do feel like I'm picking the right people to look around, because the only time I ever see stuff like that is when you're laughing at it.
So, Jen, right, that's the news. We've covered some news. That was a sweep up episode of all sorts of rubbish. Jen, any particular bits and pieces you wanted to last comments on that before we round ourselves off?
I'm sorry that I basically turned it to an episode of Jen gets shown things on screen and then gets angry about it.
This is what I wanted today to be.
I'm sorry I've hated on your positivity on the rail fairs.
No, you know what's weird is for me to be the positive one in an episode about, normally I'm the one pooping on everything, but you've come in and have provided additional cynicism, and for that we are extremely and eternally grateful.
I think because I see myself as a railway passenger above everything else. I am somebody who uses the railway rather than just a creator. Jen,
you and I are not how do we put this? We're not just happy train content creators. We like to think about how this actually impacts on people for the better or for the worse. And I like being happy when I can be happy about things, but unfortunately at the moment there's more to be cross about than there is to be happy about.
Yes.
So yeah, Jen, no, do not stop doing what you do, and we will have you on for an episode about station design at some point. Because
yes.
that was one of the ones I wanted to do with you, wasn't it? We wanted to talk about like Northumberland line, for example, and
the glorified bus stops of the Northumberland line.
Yeah, not.
Okay, no, I've seen nicer bus stops.
Yeah. Well, it's like we should, because there's some interesting reasons why it's like that. Well, not reasons, excuses why it ends up like that. But anyway, that we shall save for another day. Before we say a proper goodbye to Jen, I just want to remind everyone, if you are a PWI member, go and vote for Rayleigh for the name change. It's very important that you do that. But also, not just that, but say, even if you're not a member and you think it's important, feel free to post about it on things like LinkedIn, social media. If you are under the age of 34, tell all your friends, because it's really important that we get out the young people vote, because those folk are harder to get on because they don't obsessively spend all their time on LinkedIn instead of doing their emails. Jen on the Move can be found on YouTube, primarily. Jen, I did a little. I just basically screenshotted you. You were joking at me earlier because, like, have you clicked subscribe? Are you a subscriber? It's like, Jen, of course I'm a subscriber. He says, desperately hoping that the button on there says subscribe, which it does, by the way. Look. So yeah, no, Jen, I've been a subscriber for ages. Here is where you can go. Just search Jen on the Move on YouTube. You'll find her instantly. It's very straightforward. And look at all these great videos. Jen points at things. There is Jen pointing at something. Jen
gets angry at cross country.
Jen gets angry at cross country and how pointless their first class is. And there's a load in here. There's some really nice ones, some really heartfelt ones that'll bring tears to your eyes about the big life event that happened recently and Jen's recovery from it. We all in Railnetter Towers and associated industries send our love and are very glad that you've been able to join us and frankly are looking much healthier. I said because I was like, I need Jen's face to appear and I pressed the wrong button on my technology. We're very glad you're here, looking great. And
thank you.
Yeah.
And to those watching this in the community, I have read every single one of your messages that has wished me well, and it has really meant the world to me. So to the wider rail community, thank you so much. It's kept me going.
Is there anything else you want to plug, Jen? So the YouTube is the main place, but socials, people can find. If people search Jen on the Move, they will find all of your socials, right?
You can get me on Blue Sky. Most of the social media is pointless to me these days.
Yeah, Twitter's a bin fire. It ebbs and flows, but Blue Sky kind of was getting the sauce. There were some moments recently where I was like, oh, it's almost getting there. It's almost getting the sauce again.
I don't know about you, but I've kind of felt happier spending less time on social media.
I always feel happy when I spend less time on social media, but my job and my non-job job requires me to do a lot of social media, unfortunately.
So does mine.
And well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know, but
I'm happier. It's great.
I know. Thing is, what's great for this, I'm lucky that I've had the distraction of a toddler running around all the time, which limits any time spent on anything else. So yeah, no, Jen, thank you, cats. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so pleased we finally did an episode, and nominally to 1 hour as well. Look at that. I don't know how
have we done well?
We've done pretty well. Wow. We've done very well. It's 22:42 in the evening on the day before you're seeing this. Peek behind the curtain, everyone. Right, enough of us waffling. Jen, thank you so much. It's been an absolute delight. It only remains for us to say cheerio. Bye. Cheerio.